and welcome back to Anderson County Serves Here. Thanks to County Administrator Rusty Burns and County Council for allowing us to have an opportunity to tell you about what is happening in Anderson County and how volunteers and organizations are making the lives of others better because of their willingness to serve. So today we are with Lisa Colby of the Red Cross. Lisa is the executive director of the entire region that serves through the Red Cross. And we're going to talk to her because, again, today we find that the Red Cross is one of the original agencies that United Way funded 75 years ago in the work that we were doing in Anderson County. Lisa, it's so good to see you today. And can you tell us a little bit about how was the Red Cross created?
About 140 years ago, Clara Barton, who's arguably maybe one of the best known women in American history, started the American Red Cross. She's also known as the Angel of the Battlefield, and her legacy is that she would go out onto the fields, the war zone of the American Civil War, and she would tend to soldiers there. And that's where she began one of our most valuable principles, which is of neutrality, because she would tend to the sick, the wounded, and those who just needed to have someone by their side to help alleviate suffering, regardless of what side of the war they were affiliated with. So she then had made friends with Henri Dunant in Switzerland, who had started the Red Cross societies there. And she wanted to bring that here to the United States. So 140 years ago, that's how our organization got its start.
What an amazing story. And Lisa and I were just talking about how women have played such an important role in the history of our country and of our communities. And Clara Barton is a prime example of how women forge ahead and get things done. But Lisa, let's talk a little bit about what
around since 1922. That was when the upstate got several chapters, actually. Anderson had his own, and Greenville had one, and Spartanburg had one. About 10 years ago, they all merged together. So now we are the Red Cross of the upstate, which includes the typical 10 counties of the upstate region. And here in Anderson, I think that the reason the Red Cross brand is so well known is that we are in the community each and every day. One of the things we do primarily is, most people know the Red Cross for disaster response, and that includes home fires. So here in Anderson County, we have volunteers and staff people who respond to people who have had home fires. We're referred to them through the fire departments, our partnerships with local fire departments. And we make it a goal of ours to respond within 2 hours when we get that call, regardless of the time of night or the day of the week that happens. And we provide financial assistance if that's needed. We help families connect to resources to replace medications, to find an emergency place to stay, really whatever they need to get back on their feet. So that's primarily what we're known for, but we do a lot of other things too. We are a blood collector, and we supply blood to hospitals and clinics around the country, but also here in South Carolina. So we find it that, South Carolina is what's called an import state, in that we use more blood as a state than we can supply, meaning we have to bring blood in to meet patient need. So we hold blood drives mostly with community partners like churches, civic organizations, businesses, schools. So we will use their facilities, and we bring in the staff and the equipment and help recruit the donors to come donate blood. We also provide training services, so life-saving skills such as CPR, first aid, babysitting classes, water safety, aquatics, that kind of thing. And we have international programs where we will train people to deploy outside of the United States. Even though we're still the American Red Cross, we send internationally to countries that need help with infrastructure, emergency planning, vaccinations, really whatever the community needs are. So those are just some of the things we do. You might see our trucks and emergency response vehicles, because we are one Red Cross, and when a community is in need, whether it's Anderson County or outside of Anderson County, the coast of South Carolina and beyond, we train volunteers to respond to those disasters as well. As you know, climate change is taking its toll on places that don't even typically experience natural disasters. So whether it be floods or tornadoes, we're there to help people recover, we case manage, and we get them back on their feet.
Well, for 75 years, United Way has funded many different organizations, and it is a volunteer-driven process, but we are happy to support the Red Cross. While we support many organizations that help people who chronically find themselves in need of emergency assistance, I think it's important for us to realize with the Red Cross that so many of the families that are helped through the Red Cross, they've never needed assistance before, but they find themselves in an emergency situation most of the times in our community because they've lost their home. And isn't it wonderful that we have an organization, as Lisa's just talked about, that can reach out to these families when something that is so devastating happens to them, but there's someone there to meet their emergency needs. And so United Way is pleased to be a partner with the Red Cross, and we're so happy that Lisa's with us today. And I just want to ask another question. Based on the people who are watching, what kind of needs do you have as an organization right here in Anderson County?
Of course, funding is always a need for every nonprofit organization, I'm sure. We don't receive government funding. A lot of people, because we're so closely associated, we're congressionally chartered to respond to disasters, but we don't receive federal funding for that work. So we have to raise every dollar we are able to use in assistance, in recruiting volunteers, in running those trucks, and setting up those shelters, in helping in feeding operations. We have to raise those dollars ourselves. So funding is also is probably our primary need. But the boots on the ground, the people to do the work, is also a huge need. We have throughout the upstate a little over 300 active volunteers, and some of those volunteers have been working with us at 30, 40, we have a volunteer who's been around since, and she's in her 90s, and she's been around since she was a teenager. So we have long-time committed volunteers. You join the Red Cross family when you join the Red Cross, but it's not just for deploying to emergencies or getting up in the middle of the night to help people who have experienced a home fire. We have a variety of people. They help us with events. They help us set up events. We have fundraisers that they can help us with, whether it's decor or helping with the invitations and the mailing. So we have office assistants that help us. We have people that help us manage our fleet of cars and vehicles, so they make sure that the oil stays changed and the cars stay running. There's just a wide variety of opportunities. We also, one thing I forgot to mention in terms of our services is service to the armed forces. So that's another thing that Red Cross is proud to do, is that our military veterans, and as well as those who are in active duty, rely on Red Cross services. So if that's an area that you feel, or if you've been a veteran, you are a veteran yourself, that is an area that sometimes speaks to people's heart because they want to be able to support our troops. So we have case managers. We have a hero care line, we call it, and vets who are experiencing difficulties can call that, and we'll help connect them to services, financial assistance if they're eligible for that, and then also just compassionate care calls. We have people that sign up to work in partnership with the VA to check in on veterans, to make sure that they're doing okay. During the pandemic, a lot of people were isolated and still are isolated, so that's another volunteer opportunity we have. We have dozens of volunteer opportunities, and we need as many hands as we can get.
So if someone does want to volunteer or make a contribution to the Red Cross, can you tell us how they would do that?
Sure. We have a variety of ways you can do that. The easiest way is probably to go on redcross.org, and there's a donate now button and there's a volunteer button. So those will get you where you need to go. You can also call 1-800-RED-CROSS, simple to remember that. You can also text Red Cross to 90999, and that gives a $10 donation, so that's a quick way to help us out.
Now, in the last few segments, we have talked about something called the Legacy Dinner. United Way hopes to, in 2022, to host a dinner in the fall, and we'll be honoring and celebrating what we're calling our 5 original agencies, which includes the Red Cross. It also includes the YMCA, the Salvation Army, Girl Scouts, and Boy Scouts. Our next segment that we will host will be with the Boy Scouts. We want to make sure that the community, first off, knows that these are the organizations. They've been around for a long time, serving our community, helping those that are in need, whether it is like the services of the Red Cross or the Salvation Army, or providing great services for our youth and involving them in ways that they can become better citizens. But we hope that you will watch for details for the fall of 22 when we bring to Anderson County the Legacy Dinner, celebrating 75 years of United Way and our 5 original agencies. We thank you for all that you do for Anderson County, but remember, there's opportunity for you to serve here.
Early in my banking career, we had an opportunity to be involved with the Red Cross, and it kind of got in my blood. And from there, the Anderson operation of Red Cross sort of went into a decline, and I just thought that was unacceptable. And when I became the mayor, I really thought that was unacceptable, not to have a force like the Red Cross available to our community. So that's when I really rolled up my sleeves and decided to try to be a good volunteer for the Red Cross. And it paid off because we did get the attention of the Red Cross officials, and they did understand that Anderson was a very important market for a number of reasons. And it has been a partnership that I think has worked well for the Red Cross of the Upstate and also for Anderson. We have called on the Red Cross so many times for help for families who have been displaced by fires. I remember specifically when the hotel out on 187 caught on fire and there were so many people displaced. If we had not had a powerful Red Cross organization to step in and help those people, I don't know what we would have done. From a humane situation, that would have been a disaster. And of course everybody knows how the Red Cross responds when there's a natural occurrence like a hurricane or tornadoes or a flood, or everybody sees the evening news with the Red Cross prominently displayed. And it's easy to remember a hurricane or a tornado or a 100-year flood, but when you have just a little frame house on the alphabet streets in Anderson burned to the ground, and there's a family there with 2, 3, 4 small children, and they don't know where they're going to find a pair of blue jeans to put on, much less how they start their lives back over the next day. If we didn't have Red Cross, I don't know what we would do. And Anderson is very fortunate, and I have just always encouraged people to do the very best they can to support Red Cross, because every dollar that we donate comes back to this community. We are a net receiver of funds. We're not a net provider. Anderson is very fortunate that Red Cross never puts a limit on what can come back to your community. If they were, we'd be in trouble, because we Red Cross is a Santa Claus for Anderson County. Without their gifts, there would be some very bad situations.